Greenland just made headlines with a very bizarre UFO sighting that has people talking. But what if I told you that this recent encounter is just the tip of the iceberg? The Arctic Circle has been a hotbed of some of the most shocking UFO encounters for decades. We're talking about Soviet military pilots chasing pearl colored discs through frozen skies, massive spherical craft exploding through solid Arctic ice, and weather balloons destroyed by rotating UFOs 3 times their size, just to name a few. Hey, ufologers, I'm Cristina Gomez, and welcome to this episode of Mysteries with a History. Hello, Jimmy, and hello to everyone catching this live. Happy Thursday. How are you doing today?
Me or the chat
Yeah,
room? I'm doing
both.
great. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. I'm really excited for this episode because Greenland and the Arctic Circle have a lot of UFO sightings, but the interesting part is that there's not a lot of articles written about them. However, they have been mentioned kind of through passing in a handful of different books. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this show's going to be awesome today.
Nothing like reading books,
Right? And the
right?
smell of
There,
books, like nothing beats it.
no, analog is the way to go, for sure. A couple of things. I am wondering, and hello everybody. Oh, real quick, I just got back from contacting the desert. And today we're going to talk about mention Ross Coulthart, or I am. I don't know if you were planning on doing that, but I was. Hung out with Ross a little bit. Pretty good. I didn't realize how tall he was. He's a tall drink of water. I was not expecting that. But hanging out with him and watching everybody just really appreciate his hard work was pretty cool. And contacting the desert for everybody that wasn't there. Great year for that, and the excitement of the subject and the phenomena around UFOs and UAP is really cool to see, and it was just amazing. So if you were there, it was great to hang out with you. For everybody else, if you want to check off something off of your bucket list, get out to Contact in the Desert next year in 2026. It's going to be even bigger and better. But I wanted to swing this over to you really quick. The question that I always ask you, Christina: why Greenland this week?
It actually has to do with Ross and News Nation and the latest interview that they did showing a video of a strange object in the sky over Greenland. And I thought, hold up. Greenland is a massive country, but it is so sparsely populated. It's only about 56,000 people live there, live in Greenland, which is kind of shocking when you look at the mass. However, about 75% of Greenland is covered by permanent sheets of ice. So that part isn't that shocking to why the population is so low. But the thing is that when certain countries pop up, I'd always think to myself, okay, where can we find the documented UFO encounters and sightings? How many have taken place? And we've never covered Greenland before, or
You
really
can't, you
the
can't,
Arctic Circle as a whole.
you can't dig up information on Greenland and UFOs, and which is part of the conspiracy. I think they call Greenland Greenland when it's ice and nobody lives there, but it
And
sounds
Iceland
so,
is
yeah,
green.
it sounds so nice. Then they call Iceland Iceland, and that's the cool place where everybody lives. So is there a conspiracy there? Yeah, well, there kind of is historically. Why one is called Iceland and one is called Greenland. They wanted people to go to Greenland because there was nothing there. They wanted to keep Iceland to themselves. That's my conspiracy theory on this, but
And
I'm
what's wrong
sticking
with
to
that?
it. Yeah, I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it. But looking up UFOs in Greenland and trying to jump into that research, the Arctic, the oceans around Greenland and between Iceland, Greenland, and the UK, lots of UFO and UAP sightings with Navy and Air Force over the years. Historically, that's there, but Greenland itself, yeah, it gets a little tricky, doesn't it? It's a difficult thing to look up on the net. Now, let's jump to Ross really quick. Let me ask you this before I comment here. Are we going to watch the video?
I have it.
Okay. Because Ross just recently, and this is Christina's show. We are live right now. I don't know if I'm stepping on her toes, but I did watch Ross's interview of Martin Kleist, and who shared his footage of an object that he captured in Greenland. And why don't you run the video clip of the object? Ross said in this interview, and I'm going to quote him. He said, "This is the best UFO video that I have seen in a while." Now, here we can see the object come up from behind a mountain. And Martin described this, Christina, and you can comment, that there is nothing there. There's nothing up there but ice. Now, this is the video. All right. Now, for Ross to say that this is the best UFO video I've seen in a while, this is cool for a couple of reasons. One, well, it's not the most amazing video we have seen in a while. No, it is a typical video that we see. And that's exciting from the standpoint from Ross. Ross is on his journey in investigation, and he's an investigative journalist, and he's jumped into Washington, D.C., and the geopolitics of this and the military. He's made huge inroads to all of that and his contacts, trying to get to the truth of what is going on. That's fascinating. The other part of this is we're seeing Ross's transition into the subject, where you go from one side of it that's black and white and pragmatic and investigative to the other part of the phenomenon, which is experiences like this. And when you see this stuff for the first time and you're understanding what other experiencers and sky watchers are seeing, you then become emotionally involved and invested in this. Hence, Ross's comment that this is the best UFO video that I've seen in a while, end quote. And what I would expect from this in Ross's journey is next up is going to be consciousness for Ross. And this is what everybody in the UFO community and researchers, as they go through this, you go from the nuts and bolts, the crafts, the things, what could be up there, what does the military know, what does the government know, jumping into disclosure, to the other phases of the phenomenon. This is one of them, and I'm excited for Ross that he's going through this and he's processing this. Like I said, next up for Ross will be consciousness, and he will have fully transitioned into our community. But what did you make of this video?
I wouldn't say it's the best in a long time, but it is interesting. And what's remarkable about this is that Ross brought in a ufologer that has studied Greenland for quite some time, who brought this video, who's creating a documentary, talking to people in and around the area. It's nice that there's like a person to back up the video based off of Mark's findings, right? Versus just casually finding a UFO video online with very little information to back it up. And again, looking at Greenland, the country is so big, the population is so small. Who knows what's really going on behind the scenes, since there isn't that many eyeballs in and around that area. However, there have been some very interesting UFO sightings that have taken place, that have been recorded and documented. One of them by Jacques Vallée, which we'll get into in just a little bit. And I think it just really shows the world that you can be in the most desolate area in the world, and yet somehow, in some way, you will come across at least one UFO story. Like no country is free from that, it seems.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. And in this video here, from Martin Kleist, that was a shot in Greenland. the, for those of us that have been researching this for a long time, and we've had our own sightings and we've shot our own video and we've done all of this video represents like Tuesday night at a UFO hotspot. You know what I mean? This is and what is great about the video is that it's not just the United States, it's not just specific sky watchers, it's not that. This is confirmation that this happens all around the world. And also in this video, there's something else. We're looking at the big bright spot here. But if you look right above it at about 2 o'clock, you see the other object closing in on that one. You see it? It's just right above it.
That's right.
Yeah, and no comment about that. That's what actually caught my eye too, as well. That there was a second object in this video. The main one is great. It's compelling, but that other object just appears. And if the video would have continued, they might have actually intersected and crossed paths. But yeah, it's a great video. But again, this is Tuesday night at another UFO hotspot, just confirming the phenomenon that it happens all around the world.
Pretty much. That's kind of what people have been talking about online. But if we look at a really interesting case that was written in the book, UFO Motherships Unidentified Aerial Phenomena by John Scott Chase, he wrote about an encounter on June 25th, 1953, where a weather observer was tracking a balloon, and then he observed a UFO traveling from southeast to northeast. And from his observation position, both the UFO and the balloon were approximately like 3.5 miles distant. And the UFO appeared red in color and was rotating in a circular motion with distinctively circular shape. And then at approximately 18,000 feet, the UFO collided with the weather balloon, causing the balloon to disintegrate completely. And then the observer also noted that the UFO was significantly larger than the weather balloon, approximately 3 times its size. And then following that collision, the UFO stopped in midair and remained hovering while continuing to spin for 15 seconds. And this behavior suggests that the UFO occupants, if there were any, were attempting to assess what they just collided with, which I think makes some sense here. But so many times with people that have had UFO sightings, one of the explanations is, oh no, what you saw was a weather balloon. I mean, the classic Roswell, right? But in this case, according to this observer, which we don't have his name, but it was documented in the book that I had just mentioned, he saw a UFO collide with a weather balloon. Try telling that to your friend or to your neighbor next door. They'll be like, you mean two weather balloons hit each other.
Right,
So
right,
what are the
right,
odds
right,
of that? Like
right.
almost zero. And in this case, what's also interesting is that the 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 observer, this weather observer, was using this type of telescope known as a theodolite. Theodolite, is that how you say it, Jimmy?
I don't know.
The
That's new to me.
Okay. Well, it's this instrument. It's like a telescope, but you're able to eyeball and measure how far our objects are from one another. Theodolite. I feel like I'm saying it right, but it sounds strange coming out of my mouth, but that's okay. Anyways, he was observing all of this through this very specific type of instrument, and that's how he was able to get these distances of about 3.5 miles away. And also, this UFO being about 3 times the size of the weather balloon. But that is just one case of several here. But something else worth mentioning is that in this particular case, for this encounter, weather balloons vary in diameter depending on the model deployed. And if the balloon measured about 50 feet in diameter, that means that the UFO would have been approximately 150 feet in diameter, give or take a little bit. And if the balloon had a diameter of about 100 feet, then the UFO would have measured to about 300 feet in diameter, which is also interesting. And at the same time, that seems to be like an average size for these types of craft. But Jimmy, if you were to see this, what would be going through your mind? A UFO crashing with a weather balloon?
Right, right. Well, that's something you don't expect, right? It's
Of
the
course not.
opposite. And here's the other thing with this. The weather balloon appears to have been observed, and the theodolite mount, by the way, it's not a theodolite telescope, it's a theodolite mount, which is what surveyors use to measure distance and size. All right. And so that was being used during this observation. So you could get a couple of pretty clean data sets on that size and distance, and which was collected here. Now, all right. So just like you just mentioned, if the weather balloon is 50 feet, well, it appears that this object would be 3 times that size. It'd be 150 feet or maybe even 300 feet diameter, depending on the size of the balloon. But then this is where a skeptic will roll in, and I'm okay with this. You have a stationary weather balloon, you've got a high-tech advanced civilization that flies across space and time and arrives here and then somehow manages to crash into a stationary weather balloon that's not moving. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It also can make sense. Different atmospheres, and you don't understand what is going on here with Earth and our atmosphere, and you arrive, sensors and stuff, and the technology you have in the craft may not operate right, and things just may go wonky. I'll give you an example. It just happened 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago. Japan just attempted to land their iSpace Resonance lander on the moon. All right. This is their third attempt. How many times? And it's the moon. We know it pretty well, right? We walked on it. It's difficult to land there. And you would think that we knew everything that we needed to know logistically to land something on the moon. It doesn't look like this landing was successful, and it's our moon. So somebody else coming from deep space interstellar here may not understand everything about our atmosphere and also the technology that's here. And a collision with something like a weather balloon, even for us, which seems like something easily avoidable, apparently this did happen with a craft that arrived here from somewhere else. So I understand both sides of the argument, but I just gave you an example of us again crashing something on the moon because we couldn't land there. And this is something that we really understand, the moon, but we can't
That's
get
a
it
really good
done.
example. No,
Yeah.
that's a great example. Also, weather balloons are so primitive. The technology is so primitive. Maybe just maybe, the UFO, their radar didn't even capture the object. It's like, oh, maybe it's just like a plastic bag floating in the air, nothing to worry about. And they accidentally crash into it, and they're like, whoa, I underestimated this.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. But you're right though. Where we have a good data set from this observation because of the type of the telescope used and the mount that was used with it, where we can get distance and size, well, which was collected. The object appeared to be 3 times its size and was observed colliding into this weather balloon. And we have that data, and it's there. This is a great sighting. Greenland, again, it's massive, very, very small population. I'm going to say one thing again that I repeat all the time, Christina. If you're here, you would probably avoid population centers.
I mean,
You
I
know,
do that already.
yeah,
Like,
that's yeah, I do. That's why I live in Palmdale. All right. So and Greenland, is full of all kinds of things that would be wonderful scientifically to investigate if you're coming here from another star system, and do it undetected. There are not a lot of reports out of Greenland. There simply are not. They don't exist. Mainly, everybody lives in the south part. The rest of it basically is ice.
Well,
That's it.
that's because 75% of Greenland is covered in ice sheets. So the
Yeah.
majority, like you had mentioned, the majority of the population lives down south, and actually about 20,000 people out of the 56,000 population live in the capital. The rest of them are just like barely scattered around, but it truly is remarkable here that such a big country has the population of a small town in the United States. Well, medium-sized town, looking at 50, 70,000 people. There is another sighting that took place. But we're kind of broadening it just a little bit, not just looking at Greenland, but the Arctic Circle as a whole, because as Jimmy had mentioned, there's just not a lot of documentation there. But
Could it
actually,
be
no,
one of the
I need to
reasons
take a step
why?
back.
Could it be one of the
Go ahead.
reasons why we want Greenland to be the 51st state? Because we know that ET is there. Could there be some underground, under ice bases? Is there a joint UFO, UAP, U.S. Air Force, right? The landing spot? I don't know. But I'm just throwing that out there. It crossed my mind when all of these stories start to hit the media about Greenland, and then suddenly we go out and we visit one of our military bases there. It's like, well, what's going on? It's Greenland. I know strategically it's important because of where it sits, but could there be something else going on? I'm just saying, we have no UFO reports coming out of Greenland. None. It's like crazy. It's like I don't get it. It's too big. And I think that there's a lot going on. We just don't have the ability to see it as far as civilians go. But we've got a heavy military presence there, don't we?
I don't know. Do we?
We do.
Aha. See, Jimmy bringing in the
Mm.
interesting information that we need, but it also is kind of resonating with why we want to place people and bases and scientific labs in Antarctica. I feel like it's the same kind of vibe. And as some of the comments are stating here is one by Thunderstone. It would be a great spot for a base looking at
I
Greenland.
sure
And
would. It
it
sure
definitely
would.
would. Something else I want to
Somebody,
mention.
somebody
Go
just
for it.
posted something else. This is from Bishop. I swear to God, neither do I. And I ran comms for the Eastern Hemisphere. So I guess he was in the military. So isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Oh, yes,
We
it
need
is.
Greenland to raise reindeer.
And why not? Right? Reindeer are so cool. Santa doesn't need them all the
No, no.
time, but
There
we
is,
do.
do you know Ewan McGregor, the actor, played in Star Wars and other things? Well, anyway, he's got a great TV series out called The Long Way Home, and it's him on motorcycles, and it's like their fourth season or something. They drive around the world. And right now, this season, they're going up through um Sweden and Norway, up past the Arctic Circle on motorcycles. Now, has nothing to do with UFOs, has everything to do with the remoteness of that part of the world. There's nothing up there. There's nothing but reindeer, by the way. A lot of reindeer in this show, which is going back to Greenland. When you see McGregor's video, it's a great TV series. And the further north that they go, the less humans or no humans are there. Anything can go on up there. And I think Greenland is a great example of that. That's a great hiding spot. If you're going to have a bat cave, if you're going to have the villain's lair, if you're going to have a UFO base, you're going to do it. Greenland is a good spot. So is Canada, by the way. Yeah,
And
Canada's
why
great.
not?
Oh, and Canada, the 52nd state. Is there something going on here? I'm just saying. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but dang, right? Ah, yeah. Yeah.
The next case we're going to get into, jumping out of Greenland, but looking still within the Arctic Circle, which Greenland is a part of. This one was documented in Jacques Vallée's book, UFO Chronicles of the Soviet Union. And Jacques Vallée was conducting an interview with a physicist and professor of mathematics at Moscow University, by the name of Vladimir Az Azahaza. Man, I feel
No,
like I'm
well
saying
done.
it
Well,
wrong, but it looks
Az-
correct.
Azazha.
Azaza. Actually,
Yes.
that's like
Yes.
Mojo Jojo, kind of like villain
Yeah, yeah.
name. No, that's awesome.
Azazha. Azazha.
So he was also a Russian UFO researcher, and he was collecting these different UFO reports. This one took place October 7th, 1977, which he ended up relaying to Jacques Vallée. But what happened here was that he reported in this program that there were too many incidents that could not be denied. And his statements led support to the claim that there was indeed a secret element to the Setka Mo, which is a program that was run by Russia. But these Soviet submarines, according to Vladimir, were encountering underwater objects that would follow them. And these objects were initially thought to be American devices, but one incident definitely laid that theory to rest, where they were like, okay, no, it can't be the Americans. And a Soviet icebreaker was at work in the Arctic Ocean when, according to Vladimir, quote, a brilliant spherical craft suddenly broke through the ice and flew up vertically, showering the vessel with fragments of ice. And then looking up, the sailors and officers on deck saw the object. Looking down, they saw the hole in the ice. And Vladimir had mentioned, they don't shoot a missile that way. You have to break the ice first. And furthermore, the object was a bright sphere. We knew what nuclear missiles looked like, and that object that just shot through the water, through the ice into the air, was not any kind of missile. And as a result of encounters like these, the Soviets drew up rules of engagement for UFOs, which is interesting. Simultaneously, it is not shocking, but the information of it coming out to the public is, stating how to observe them and what to do in confrontation. Also mentioning that they treated us the way we would treat a fish or a rabbit. It is naive to assume that they have any goodwill towards us or any need to interact. They simply seem to go about their business and they just coexist with
Full
us.
stop. Full stop right there. That is such a great observation. Such a great observation. It wasn't goodwill. It wasn't bad will. They didn't give a crap about us. They didn't pay us any attention. They just did whatever they wanted to do, like we act around animals. Isn't that an interesting observation? That
It is.
and so with animals, do animals think? Then
Jimmy,
we'll
are
move
we not
on.
cool, Jimmy? Is
Right,
that it?
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Do animals think that way? Do animals go, right? Is there, a goat or, a rabbit or whatever going, man, why are we being ignored by those humans? We have feelings too. We're
Yeah, are we
smart.
not cute?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
are
Are
we
we
not
not cute? Are
adorable?
we right? Right. But they don't care about us. They just walk by us and ignore us and act like we're not even here. Is that what ET does? Hmm. It's a very, very, very honest and interesting observation. And I do not dismiss that at all. I don't. Sometimes I'm guilty of ignoring people that I don't find interesting. Right? It doesn't have to be a goat. You know what I mean? I'm being serious. Oh, you're guilty of it too. I can see by the look on your face. But you still allow me on this show, so I appreciate that. But you know what I
You're not
mean?
in that category.
You know what I
But
mean?
I get what you're
Yeah.
saying, and it's interesting because we have heard this over and over again of these stories of these encounters of UFOs being seen during times of conflict, times of war, not engaging, just observing, or they're minding their own business. They just happen to be in the same vicinity. Um, we've this took place during the Vietnam War, which was a recent show I did looking at UFOs during that time frame. But if we look at any part in the world, you know what? Actually, it was like one of the most famous cases. Travis Walton, he had mentioned years after his encounter, he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I feel like that could be relevant for a handful of UFO sightings and encounters. Sometimes people feel nudged to look up to see something. Other times they just happen to be at the right place. But it seems that overall, these craft that are in the sky, these alien beings that people have encountered are really just minding their own business. Yes, there are some stories of these space brothers that want us to raise our consciousness and cure cancer, but that's a very slim amount of encounters. The majority of them are neither benevolent nor malevolent, they're just there. And what's scarier to you, Jimmy, in your opinion? Just being present or having a type of agenda, not knowing the agenda?
That's right. You know who you need to be scared of in any situation? The
Human.
quiet ones.
Oh,
The quiet
now
ones.
that too.
Yeah, yeah. The noisy ones, right? Whoever, whatever, the noise. Okay, all right. It's the quiet ones you got to keep, your squinty eyes on. And because you don't know. You don't know what's up. And that's always been my take throughout life. I'm looking at the clock. Let's move on really quick.
Okay.
Two
Okay.
years ago, Christina, at the Conscious Life Expo was the weekend, and it happened in real time at the conference where the objects started getting shot out of the sky here in the United States. And we started tracking the alleged Chinese balloon. We're shooting stuff out of the sky in Canada. Missiles are flying from U.S. Air Force and probably National Guard and Navy fighter jets that were called out. Why? And we had said this at the time. I made this observation. Why suddenly are we trigger happy with objects in the sky? And even more concerning, over North America, where we are shooting missiles at objects over North America. And it was a pretty big moment and an eye opener for all of us. Well, it turns out they had a reason. All right. They had a reason to be trigger happy because 3 days before that Chinese balloon appeared over the US, an unidentified object was seen over the Arctic Circle. Okay, with fighter jets being sent to take the object down. Now, the publicly undisclosed incident was over the Arctic Circle on February 1st, 2023. Most people don't know about this. Defense and intelligence sources say 8 or 9 unidentified objects were detected, 8 or 9, over the Arctic Circle on fighter jets from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, otherwise known as NORAD, dun dun dun, were sent up in an unsuccessful attempt to intercept them. Key word there, unsuccessful. They couldn't do it. NORAD says, are you ready? Give me the dun 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 here. Here we go. NORAD says it had aircraft flying in the area but that they were returning to home bases as part of a training operation.
Dun dun dun.
Right? Right? So now you may understand why we were so trigger happy at that point. Right? So we were unsuccessful at this other intercept, 8 or 9 objects over the Arctic Circle. We 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 set up planes from NORAD to intercept them and couldn't do it. And then other objects started to show up. Again, this is all far north. The objects that we shot down were in Canada, right? And there were 2. And then the Chinese weather balloon, it didn't go across Texas. It went across the northern half of the United States. Of course, ended up being shot down over the East Coast as it entered international water, and it wasn't over a populated area, which is a safer place to shoot down a UFO. You don't want a flying saucer coming down over Indianapolis. Right? Right. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, as you say. If that were to take place, people would be grabbing the debris so quickly that there's no way that the military could be knocking on every single person's door and be like, hey, give me the debris. It's not like Roswell, right? So it wouldn't be terrible, but it would be confusing and slightly dangerous.
Yep.
But I'd want to be there.
Yep.
I would have my arm broken for alien debris.
Me too.
Be worth it.
Me too. Before we get to the next case and wrap this show, about 2010, I don't know the exact date, but it was around that time, and I saw a meteor. It wasn't a meteorite yet because it hadn't hit the ground, but I saw a meteor fly through in the middle of the day, Christina, fly through the sky. It wasn't coming down. It was going across, and it was low, and I could hear it. I could hear it crackling, and it was a flying rock, and it was flaming with this huge smoke trail coming, and it was crazy how it was flying. It wasn't going very fast, by the way. And I was standing out there with a group of people as we watched it over Burbank, and flew next to the mountains. Low, we could see you could see it. It was glowing orange with this crazy smoke trail off the back of it, and crackling. But it flies over us and then goes behind this mountain. Okay. The first thing that popped in my mind was, why aren't you getting in your car and chasing that? Because it's going to crash somewhere. And wouldn't it be cool to pick up meteorite debris? That's what popped in my mind. Now, if I saw a UFO get shot down, yep, I'm jumping in the Jeep. I am. I'm collecting UFO debris. It's the first thing that I think everybody thinks about.
It's like the child equivalent of going to the end of the rainbow to look for leprechauns and a pot of gold. But in this case, we're adults now.
Right.
And it's like, no. I don't want a pot of gold.
Right.
Like, who wants that anymore? I want alien debris.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I have got a few things that are really old and really cool, like old, stuff. You know what I don't have? Oh, I do have one piece. I have one piece of alleged alien debris that somebody sent me. I will say it's pretty heavy. I didn't collect it myself. But that's the one thing that has eluded me. I don't have a piece of alien debris. I would have a press conference if I did. I wouldn't be like these other folks, and send it off for testing or sell it to the army. I would never. I would have a press conference. I would say, check out. I would hold it up. Check it out. This is my ET transponder. I just got it. I got it off of the craft. It fell out as they were.
It came in the mail through Amazon.
Yeah. Right. But I would have a press conference and I would go fully live with it. That's what I would do. but I don't have it yet.
But the key word is yet, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know.
You know
I
what?
know.
Maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones.
Manifest that stuff. Manifest it. Reach out
That'd
to the
be
universe
so
right now.
cool.
Universe, I need my ET communicator. That's what I need. Okay, let's get on to our next case. But I'm going to say this to everybody. Everybody has had this thought because we've seen it in so many movies, like the movie Real Men with Jim Belushi. So good. You know what ET gives Belushi as a gift? An ET pen, an ET space pen, right? And that's what so when you need to reach out to us, press the button and we'll be back. Right? You get the communicator, you get a Galaxy Quest. Remember, they have the communicator that they could talk. And right. We all want that. How cool would that be? It's the
I think deep
one.
down we all just want friends. This is what it's down to.
I know. All right. What's the last case we're going to do?
All right, the last one. We'll just touch on this one because one took place around the Arctic Circle. We've covered it before, so I'm just going to touch on it. And that is these
Oh, the
images right
Trepang.
here.
Yeah.
That's
Here
right.
we go. Here we
Give
go.
give us the quick rundown on this one.
This okay, I'm involved with this. And this was crazy because Alex Mistretta, the researcher that broke this story, really good friend of mine, been on Fade to Black many times and was always at my house for dinners. And one night, we were having dinner on my back patio with a bunch of people having a good time, and he whips this case out on us. And he goes, "This is the USS Trepang, and these photos were." I said, "What?" And I'm looking at I was like, "What is going on here?" So we wrote up the article and released the pictures. The pictures themselves, the ones that we're looking at here, were in a French magazine from 1972, and with no follow up on it, what the objects were or anything, just that it was the USS Trepang, and which was a submarine. And the crazy thing about these photographs, they've never been debunked.
Dun,
If
dun,
they were
dun.
right. Now, if they are, obviously this is a large object. All right. And the upper right-hand side, the conical shape, the cone-shaped object, is that the object that is in the lower right, but from the side? And I think so, which would make this a ginormous triangle-shaped object. The big picture on the left, I don't know. Now, allegedly, these are all the same object. There were some people that, and rightfully so, said, "You know what? These look like balloons, targeting balloons for the Navy." All right. I looked at, and so have a lot of other people, looked at so many different targeting balloons by the U.S. Navy, and nothing even comes close to this in appearance. Nobody has ever debunked it. Nobody from the Navy has come forward saying, no, that was part of a targeting thing. We do this all the time. This is what that never happened with this. So the USS Trepang images that we're looking at here have stayed right where they are. What are these objects? And could it be something else? Now, I have looked at these in high res and as close up as I can. The lower right object that we see, the flat triangle one, it appears to have water and vapor dripping off of it back into the ocean. So, and it looks like it's wet on the top. The one below that, the one below it, that one. And so it looks like that came out of the water. None of the images show the object coming out of the water, but it looks like it did. I still I don't know. What do you think we're looking at here? It's fun to look at, isn't it?
It definitely is, especially when we have an idea of when these images took when they were taken in the early 1970s, and then it was released in a magazine. That's why it's believed that there are these lines between it. Either it's the scope where how the picture was taken, or the picture was folded and then sent over to the magazine, which we have spoken about in the past. But it is really interesting. You see a triangular shape on one side, and depending on the angle, if they are all the same craft, one angle looks like a tic tac or a cigar shaped, while the other one looks triangular shaped. And then the one at the bottom is kind of like giving me pancake vibes from IHOP, which are delicious. But all of these are very interesting. And to this day, we still don't really have any real definitive answers on how these images were really taken, who took them. All we know is that they were taken around the Arctic Circle. They were taken probably in the early 1970s, and they were taken with military grade cameras. That's all the information that we have, which is unfortunate, even though these have been circulating the internet and just the overall media for decades. And I think this is a really great way to end today's show. Jimmy, before we head out, who do you have on today on Fade to Black?
Oh, tonight I have Dale Graff on the show. And tonight we're going to be talking about his research into the psi field, PSI,
Nice.
the psi field, and precog dreams, dreaming
Ooh.
the future. Have a great, safe, and wonderful weekend. All right, Christina, thanks a lot. Another great show.
Thank you. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button right down below and subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoy UFO news, updates, case studies, interviews, and more. I want to say thank you to everyone catching this live, for all of my amazing YouTube members, Patreon members, all of my amazing moderators, Scott for that super chat. Thank you so much. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.